$5,000 for the mold refurbishing. And then Trudy has a great idea of let's just do one. Let's do one and just take it around town and let everyone see it and be amazed and awed, and then use that as a way to prime the pump, get more people excited and interested in it, and then use that to sell more in the future. So hopefully commitment from the city to help with that mold refurbishing, and then commitment from Parks and Rec to finance the remainder of that refurbishment. May and June, approach multiple businesses to sponsor a snow weekend, what we talked about last week, some of those banks and other groups. And she has a whole breakdown of what she's thinking of, like $5,000 just to own one, $2,500 to rent it for 2 weeks and have it in front of your business. And then we had the idea of raffling it off a snowy to have in your yard that we would do during the History Cruisers night. So you could just have them like just in your yard. Which I think would be silly.
Have it in your yard permanently?
No, just for one night.
Oh,
Just
for one night.
Just a little raffle for one night, yes. So yeah, so we've got a whole timeline that I can send around and what it costs, but that's.
Oh, for one person.
I was for 1 week. Like, how long would the snowman stay in the park for?
I think it's just a night.
Why not a week?
Yeah, I mean, totally.
Because then
it's still-
people, then you give people a chance to like.
Yes,
Like, look what
yes,
I want.
for sure. Yeah. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay, and I have had an opportunity to connect with the mayor on this a little bit. But we haven't had a lengthy discussion about potential sponsors. And, you know, so this is all good, you know, with the plan and everything. I think what we should do, as we're getting a little more serious about this, is maybe get back together with Hart and say, does a plan like this make sense? Because he's done this with so many other cities so many times, right? So I think it might be good to kind of just go through some of those things in a little bit more detail. And I think also, you know, John, it's good that you're here because this is probably the, you know, biggest budget thing that we're talking about, at least this year anyway. And I happened to talk a little bit with Terry that night when we were here for the chair meeting. And I think he was even looking at some of the CARES Act funding to help front some of the funding for the snowman project. I don't know how serious that is or how far that might go or what it would be, but and do you have any background to this project at all?
No,
Okay.
I do know on the CARES Act money that if you ask our finance director, it's already all spent.
Yeah, that's a good finance director. Okay.
But that doesn't mean there aren't other sources.
Yeah.
Do you know
So-
what do you think the cost is?
So I think we're looking at an upfront cost. It depends on how you do it. Right? So initially what we were looking at when we had Hart Johnson is the representative from this company, Tivoli 2. And so his sister founded this company. And they're the ones, they do all of these major, like, you know, they're like real life, like cartoon characters, for lack of a better term. You know, it's like these things you'd see all over, whether it's the Mall of America or things like that. But they also have done all of these things where they're like the Peanuts characters in St. Paul and then many others in many other cities, you know, different types of figures. And Terry had connected with them about a year ago and they already had a snowman mold. So he thought, well, this would be great, save us some money. So Terry really wants to do something like that in North St. Paul. So if you were to have, for example, 10 snowmen, snow people, and you know, you have artists, you hire artists that design and paint or whatever these things in any different way. And it could be a nod to a business or something. If a business is sponsoring it ahead of time and they're, you know, going to purchase it outright. But if you did 10 of these things, you're looking at $50,000. So for the cost of these snow people. Now, if you have sponsors, there are all these different ways. Some people could sponsor it just to help get it done and then it's in front of their business for the summer or whatever. And then it gets sponsored and then it gets auctioned off. And then any other business or individual could buy this, any one of these things and have it anywhere they want, right?
So Trudy's idea was to have one, and it's kind of the city of North St. Paul and the Parks Department joining together to support the funding of it, with $11,000 to refurbish the mold, and then about $4,000 for the artist fees and building the first statue. So we have that one, we kind of have them on parade throughout the city through the fall and with the history cruisers, and then use that as leverage to get sponsors on board to buy them for next year.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that being said, then though, you're fronting a higher amount of money for the one.
Yep.
To get started.
Exactly.
And because if you were to say, hey, we want to see if there's interest and if there are sponsors, you do 10 of them, then you're spreading that $11,000 out to the cost of all of them. Right? So there's just different ways that you can do it, but it's possible. It's all just money, right? So it's possible that if you find sponsors who are interested in doing this and you say, well, it's going to cost you this much, but then you keep it and we help arrange for artists to come and you can choose the design that is done on the thing. Say this is what you want. And we have the thing, but we're also going to use these things and have them on display at the car show or whatever the thing is and just build civic pride. And then at the end, you keep it and do whatever you want. For well, roofing, T.H. Shifsky's, right? So if you could do it that way and have all the businesses front all the costs, or you could do it where you have the city fronts some for all of the cost in hopes of recouping all or more of the cost. So some of these people, what they have done, like, St. Paul's a very different city than North St. Paul, but St. Paul, they did their thing, had sponsors, and then when they auctioned them off, they ended up having,
Hundreds of thousands.
lots of extra money that went into, some kind of nonprofit for students or whatever. So there's potential for it to be a money-making thing. North St. Paul, I don't know, and you go and we're different.
We're different, but we have a lot of community members who are very passionate about this city.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you want it kind of right size
Mm-hmm.
to the
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah, so so I think kind of the big question is like, does the city try and handle some of the upfront cost of it? And if we did, how do we do that? So there's potential that all, some or all of the money would be recouped. But we don't know that for sure.
Kurt was pretty convincing. It's a fairly successful program that he's helped roll out. I mean, as recently, Roseville did the roses around their city, if you noticed that in the last year.
No. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I don't know if they're still around or.
The only one that's jumping out, I mean, I know the peanuts, of course.
Yeah.
And then I was in either Louisville or Lexington, Kentucky, and they had horses.
Yeah, so that was Tivoli.
Okay.
If you ever visit a Great Wolf Lodge,
Yeah.
Littles, they did all of that animated.
Oh,
work in
cool.
all Great Wolf Lodges.
Rainforest
National
Cafe as well.
Rainforest Cafe, yeah.
Yeah. Is there a picture of what the mold looks like?
Mm-hmm.
There's actually one that's privately owned by someone who passes all the time on the homework from Crystal Water.
Yeah.
It's right on Highway 36.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's a little dive.
Yeah.
It looks
Okay.
like a diver, like a scuba diver kind of dive covers.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah, I've
does
seen it.
change them up.
Yeah.
With different.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So they're very solid. They're mounted in a way where it won't be a risk of theft or a risk of like a safety risk because they're
How heavy are they,
the concrete base is
Yeah.
a few hundred pounds.
Yeah.
The mold itself, I don't think is that heavy once they throw it,
Glass and steel on the
But
inside.
the base is solid.
The base is 400 pounds,
Oh.
and then the thing
Mhm.
itself, made of fiberglass and steel, is 160 pounds.
Yeah. So we'll have to have our public works guys, if we're doing,
Right.
you auction it off, we'll have
Yeah.
to move it around.
And you can lift it with a forklift.
We got an in with public works. Feel pretty good about that. No, yeah, so that, there would be some involvement there. And I think there's a lot to consider, like how to materialize the thing and what we would do with the whole sort of program. So,
Well, so my only thought is you might want to make sure that if she doesn't already, Carrie Urbanbach knows about it and she can share it with the business association. I bet they would love to hear about it whenever the time's right.
That's a good idea. And I'm gonna have to get back to Terry. And, I just kind of randomly was writing down names of potential sponsors in North St. Paul and came up with about a dozen, and so I think it's doable,
Yeah, and my other suggestion, and if you guys have thought about it, is in the fall roundup parade, he should be on a float riding around.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We can think of it. I did contact Carrie. about it.
Like all of them. Well,
The parade of snow people.
yeah.
Well, it makes me think of that Calvin Hobbs. Would you ever see where he makes his little snow?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
It's definitely something to be excited about.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's the exact ideas that we're hoping others kind of roll with in this project, so.
So what do we need, what are our takeaways for today then? Do you have any thoughts on that, Karen?
I don't think we have too many takeaways for today. I think Lisa and Trudy and I were going to meet again, and then we were going to approach a couple of businesses one-on-one before we start trying to go to like the business association lunches or anything like that, just to try to get people on board individually. But we thought if we had the support of the parks and the city, that would really help us when we do that, just to have that initial, even asking for feedback. Yeah, for
Because
sure.
that'll help with the pitch.
Yep. Yep, exactly, yeah.
You're gonna say Tivoli too, is it Tivoli 2?
GOO.
Okay.
TIVOLI. The nice thing about that company too is with the national presence that they kind of have in this behind the scenes angle, they're local. They're in Window Heights. Just
Lisa, any other takeaways that I'm missing? that we talked
No,
about?
no.
Okay.
So Carrie, so basically next steps are that you and Lisa and Trudy will meet again.
Yep.
To discuss next steps.
Yep.
Project Snowy.
Mhm.
I like that. That's a gender neutral.
That's right.
I like it.
And so connect with potential sponsors. Okay, well, anything else we want to cover on that then for this week?
I think that's it.
Okay, next item then was the council chambers wall art. And we had action items on that. Was that you, Lisa?
I think it was, and unfortunately, no, I really didn't get anything accomplished on that. I know Carrie had sent me an idea for it. I'm looking for feedback on next steps. I know with the banners that we're looking at, I inquired with the finance director of how those would be paid for, and so I need to give an estimates, which I have.
Okay,
So that'll be the first step, but I think we need to figure out what do we want before I can start looking at trying to get prices on something. So we need to narrow it down a little bit.
for the banners,
No, not for the banners,
oh,
but for the wall.
for the wall,
art,
yeah. Mhm.
And personally, I don't, unless you tell me otherwise, I don't think that one is a priority with everything else going on.
but that's fine.
Lisa, do you feel differently about that? No, it was brought up and it had been in the works before, but we don't have anything to go off of, right?
Not, yeah, I couldn't find the previous piece of art, so.
Okay.
There's a potential that we could partner on that with maybe Century College.
Oh, boy. There you go.
So I think we can, it's okay that you haven't gotten far on it with cost
That
and
might be an
design.
interesting project.
Take that out.
So, well, so,
I'll update it.
yeah, Stacy's
Okay.
already got an update
Oh.
on that, connecting with Century College. Sounds like there's a lot of energy
Good,
with them and partnering with us. on that.
very
So,
cool.
So the council chambers wallet, maybe we'll just pick this up when we get to your update then, Stacy.
Mhm.
Okay. And then programming for the art cart, 5 events total.
Yes. So where we're at with that, as you know, I'm coordinating with the music in the parks, so that's all planned. I actually purchased some supplies and so far I've only spent $50 that I can ask for reimbursement for. I found cutouts, the die cuts of the hands for the leaves on the trees, so I was really excited because I was kind of worried, how am I gonna do this? I could do hand, their own, where we could paint their hands, they could do their own handprints, but after hearing what Parks is expecting for numbers, I thought that would be chaotic. So rather than that, I have these die cut hands in all different colors. They can color them, they can paint on them, they can decorate them however they want. So I do still need to purchase some paints, temper paints that are washable
Okay.
for that. We are going to have to stock up on some supplies though, because with the other events that we're looking at, we talked about doing a couple of daytime events, and that's going to depend on volunteers. So the word is out. Carrie did advertise for that on our website. I don't know if we've had any yet, so it will depend on how many we get. We would need to have 2 volunteers per event to host it.
Mhm.
And then we actually talked about 1 a week, or excuse me, 1 a month in the park. So that would be an additional 3, in addition to the 3 at the music at the park.
It's, I had that we had a total of 8.
Yep, so we have the car show events. We were gonna do 2 of those.
Yep.
We were gonna do 8 in the parks.
No, 3 music in the parks, 3 daytime in the parks,
Okay, yeah,
and then 2 car shows.
yes,
And so we had so music in the parks is the 3rd Thursday of each month, daytime in the parks, 4th week of each month, just to space that out. And then car show in August.
yes. Yep.
And you were thinking though, Lisa, so like the programming for the music in the parks, do the hands thing at
Yes,
all of those music.
Yes, initially-
Because you're collecting all of them.
right, so it'll be a collaborative piece, and then we're going to display that in the Ramsey County Library here in North St. Paul. when we're done. So it might be 1 tree, it might be a whole forest, as Trudy said, depending on how many children participate. So for the programming, I don't have anything planned for the other events. Now, the car show, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. But do we actually want to, are we just there to bring vision to our commission, or are we actually going to be hosting?
I think it's both.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a great way for, commissioners to be present at the cart, taking shifts or something. And then having something to do, even if it's, for adults and kids,
It should be for adults and kids. I caution it being viewed as babysit in that atmosphere, especially in that atmosphere.
Mhm. Right, that's what I want with the people.
Yeah.
She wanted to do a craft.
So, yeah, I don't know what it would be. Like I said, I'm not a creative person.
Okay, I can give some thoughts to that this
Something-
weekend and
but
I'll
yeah,
bring it
something
back
like-
for next.
So,
Something
because
car-related.
we want to draw adults in to it. We want adults in North St. Paul to know that the Arts and Culture Commission is not intended to provide crafting opportunities for children as its mission. You know, that it's
For all.
bigger than that, and we want to, embrace everybody.
Could that be a place where we could collect the feedback that we talked
Yes,
about as
yeah,
well?
we've talked about that, and that'd be a good
Yeah,
opportunity.
I do need to purchase some of those big foam whiteboards that people can add their ideas and we'll just have that out.
What do you mean? What's it?
Oh, the poster boards,
Or, and people just write things?
yeah,
on-
ideas of what they.
Or even maybe you could roll out paper,
Oh,
you know,
we could do that.
makes it, because then you can just roll it back up. When
Yes, yes. The reason I suggested the poster board is because then it's visual for everyone. I
Right,
was thinking it could be mounted right on the side of the art card.
Right.
But we could try the paper.
Yeah.
Especially if it's not raining. If it's raining, then
well, if it's raining, we might,
We wouldn't be able to do it.
Okay, that's fine.
we'd have to just find paper. You know, maybe we have a backup by June and August. It's, I know, right? Starting to feel like this carry on forever.
I know.
So just,
So we'll have to get ideas for the car show. I can think of something for that. And does anyone have any input for daytime activities in the parks?
anybody know kids crafting ideas?
Well, Willow Greenway Park did say that we could use some of their, when she did the passport with community ed, she said we
Oh, yeah.
can use some of those activities. I can circle back with her.
You want to reach out to Laura? Who's spelling cart with a K or a C?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said carp.
Art cart.
Lord Greeny carp.
Oh, yeah, cart.
So
Art.
art,
Art cart.
we haven't discussed that. I've been spelling it with a C, but if
Yeah.
you want to be creative and do a K, we can definitely.
Reminds me of the go-karts. You know, we used to have go-karts. You know, Sweet.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
you drive one?
just think of
Of
that K,
course.
what you can do with it.
Yeah, and there was like this guy that had one arm that ran that place.
Oh, yes, I remember
Remember that?
hearing about him. I
They
do
used to have
remember.
they used to have a carnival right down.
What
the
was
back.
his name? Yes, what was his name? I'm gonna ask around. He has some stories
Just
to
be
tell
careful about
about
messing
that guy.
around with that guy. Anyway, so the art cart, so reach out to. Well, great, art.
Carrie, you do that? Thank you. Okay.
Sorry, this is
That's
No,
night for you, night meetings.
Yeah.
okay. Mhm.
I hear you.
Coming by.
Yeah, it's
All
great
right,
to meet you.
Mr.
Yeah,
Tomorrow,
like I
John.
said, that's
Thanks
just
for
your role
stopping
play,
in.
huh?
Yeah.
for sure.
Thanks, John. Okay. So then, as far as like the music in the parks, the three for those, do you feel confident in the programming and getting the materials for those, Lisa?
Yes, I'm gonna have to, as I mentioned, I spent $50 so far. I'm gonna have to buy some more paint. And I'll look and see if there's any other embellishments. I think we set $100 limit for that, because that's all fair enough.
Yeah, you think that would be enough?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I got the hands, I got the, had a bunch of markers.
Like those, the parks people say, plan on it being like
Oh,
10
100.
times It's as much as
Yeah,
you expect,
yeah.
yeah.
I think I bought 300 cans, so.
Yeah.
It'll last.
And if, Lisa, maybe we don't get as many people that first time, you could probably continue the project for another day.
Oh, yeah, we can use those things
Sure.
for a number of other different projects as well, so.
Yeah,
Can't
that's-
have too many supplies.
So that's another thing. What about where can we keep our cart supply storage
It'll have to be in the art cart.
in the cart?
Yeah.
So that makes sense. If we, as long as it's, because then is that thing gonna be dedicated just as the art cart? Nobody's gonna use it to store
Store.
meat or anything.
The police department to store
John left it, right?
confiscated items.
He did.
Okay, hey, that's great. Which kind of, I know Bigley's busy from what you said, but it's more of this idea, like, it'll be cool to feel like ownership, like thinking that thing.
Oh, yeah, we'll get an update from you on it, right?
Yeah. So then but then volunteers for the music in the park. So that's gonna still have to be coming through what Carrie's getting on the website, if anything, or we gotta
Yeah.
get kind of put out a call. Are there people that we know who would be willing to volunteer? Gosh, the high school.
Yeah, please spread the
Like,
word.
how
and
old
let
do you
them-
think a kid would need to be? 16? 16's okay?
I think 15.
I think it's one of those things.
I can ask my
Oh,
son,
there you go. Excellent. And maybe.
I don't know if he would want to do it, but I think, hey,
If
you
he
can
knows.
talk to the
Yeah.
school.
Yeah, spread the
Well-
word and let them know to sign up on our website.
Okay.
It's already live up there?
Yeah.
That's an idea.
So when you talk
I mean, not
to
me, but
Laura, is there any communications that could be done at school with bulletin board or anything? Sure. Okay.
so I have an action and find volunteers for art card, everybody. Direct them to the website, I guess. So I'll have to talk to Sarah about that. Okay, so, and then that would be for the daytime in the parks too, and so then we just have to find the programming for that. And then the car show, kind of the same thing, looking for, I think it would be cool to have just like some funky ideas. I don't know what that would be, but something maybe a little more edgy for the show. Car show.
Sidewalk chalk tops.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. that would be
That's funky, right?
I think
That'd
it'll be,
be
What about
amazing.
like
You got
the
the whole
spray chalk too, like spray something? They've got spray
Yeah.
chalk.
Oh, then you think kids might get carried away and start squirting each other with that?
As long as it's washable, just make sure it's washable. So
like,
there's no
some
problem.
people do that like in India. I don't know what the. how
And is
it's
it
called.
children
The
or
big
the
dog.
adults that would get carried away?
Well, that's the
Squirting
problem.
each other
We
'cause-
might have to have security nearby.
What we need at the car show is a good incident. Spread the
Any
word.
press is good press.
That's right.
Most
Something
press is
big.
good press.
Flash mob.
Flash art.
Suddenly, it makes the news.
We can all
Say
carry
all
color
car show.
bombs in our pocket, just like let them off.
Oh, the
randomly.
chalk, like
Yeah.
a fun run.
So, yeah, so then the car show, we were gonna think about that. So this is April, our next meeting is May. And then the next month, we will be doing the car show as well as these other ones. So, do we need to have like kind of a subgroup to work out some more of the details on this between now and then?
I feel like we'll be able to work the rest of the details out in May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then why don't we do this? Can we plan ahead for next meeting to really have a good chunk of time to focus on working out the art card details at our next meeting? And
Here.
you do like something?
I love the sound of art card. Just like it. I don't care. I do not discriminate with the C or the K. It just flows.
Yeah. I got an idea for the feeling that I want, but I don't know what.
Talk
what
to me.
that would look like. What?
Talk to me and we'll think of something.
So I'm thinking graffiti, like make it look just loud and here.
Yeah, and I'm also like the Kai Arns art,
Yeah.
colorful,
Mhm.
abstract.
I'll refer to his
Pop art.
website.
Yeah.
and come up. It was Kai, what is his last name?
ARENS.
And he kind of has that Andy Warhol look to his art, from what I remember.
Yeah, it's pop art. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's very bright.
Oh, yeah, it was a car show. You guys do this to me every time.
That's why you love coming to these
Okay.
You
meetings.
do, but then I get home and I'm like, oh my God, I took out way more than.
Yeah.
Way
Okay,
more.
so here's just a couple more action items, and then we can wrap up the art card. But we had a few things. So action item for Lisa Wong was safety of minors training necessary. Were you able to check with the? Okay.
And actually, I did.
You did?
I'm sorry, I had Lisa written down, so I
Okay.
thought that was my responsibility.
Safe.
Glad that worked.
Yeah.
but I'm sorry. We're Lisa.
We need
get
another
it done.
Tom in this group.
Yeah, that was her responsibility. No, so I did ask Soren, and he said there wasn't any, there weren't any limitations or anything that we
Not
need to be
necessary.
cautious. So, yeah, just your standard, whatever the volunteer form requires. I don't know. I mean, at that age, I don't think we have to do a background check as long as we have more than one. It's not like anyone can be alone with the kids. So.
That's true. I mean, if you have a 16-year-old working it,
Mhm.
a background check would hopefully not turn up anything. Not that much. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's even required with the volunteer form, so I have no idea.
Okay.
I'll find out. Easier.
And then we had how to decorate part, and this was Bigley, and this was Stacy, but Stacy, I know you have that.
I can jump ahead.
Yeah.
and just give it up to you
Yeah,
now.
go
so
ahead.
we don't have to visit. Bigley is very busy. Bigley was difficult to get in touch with, and when I did finally get in touch with someone, they were like,
Okay.
nor did they have any other recommendations for anyone else I could ask because I asked that. So, like, yeah, how do you find that?
Graffiti artist.
Well, so North St. Paul does have graffiti solutions, which removes graffiti, and maybe they have the contact. I mean, that's the only thing I was thinking of because I saw
Is that really? Is that-
graffiti solutions.
There's so much graffiti that there's, most graffiti that you see is just bad. Sometimes you see graffiti and you're just like,
I went to the graffiti walk in Denver and it was amazing.
yeah.
Like they actually commission graffiti artists and it's beautiful. I mean, if that's,
Google it. Well, we'll keep looking at that. So that's just an open item then, right? How to decorate.
Yeah. In the worst case scenario, what you could do is some kind of art that's not literally painted on the art card. I'm thinking more like a wrap. Well, wraps would be pretty expensive if we could want to donate, for sure. I'm just trying to think of things without a cost incurred. We could give people at the car show to paint these boards, these very large boards that we prop up against our art cart when we go to different events. So it's not actually on the surface of the art cart, but it's. I wonder what.
like, so after the civil unrest in 2020, amazing art popped up along Lake Street. Like the George Floyd mural, and if you drove past the Kmart down there, I don't know how they could tear that down. It was amazing. Like amongst the rubble and the ruins from what had happened on that street, it was beautiful. I don't know if there's a way to find. There has to be a way to find those artists, but we have to commission them. And graffiti artists are like $50 to $70 an hour.
Right. I think that the biggest challenge with painting it is the material that we have to use. Because we can't do something that isn't going to last in the elements, because it does sit outside. And so even if it looks good for a year, it might start peeling and cracking, and then we ruined it, which we can't do that. So I think the biggest thing is going to make sure that whoever does it does use the right material, or medium, I should say. And then, it's a matter of finding.
I wonder how difficult it would be to seal. Like maybe I could ask Bigley again if we found some sort of graffiti artist to paint it, if they could just seal it, like a clear coat or something on the outside. You know what I mean? Like this.
Yeah, okay.
You want to research that and find out if it's doable?
I got a paint sprayer. Just have it in that public works yard and just spray it with a clear coat.
Poly?
Yeah. I mean, for real, it's
Can you
If
use
you-
poly on metal though?
sure. Oh yeah. There's just different types.
I found a youth based art organization. That's the position there in North Minneapolis, that you can commission their youth and some of their other artists to do work. I believe their downtown or their skate park that's outside was done by Citywide.
I've heard of that company before. Plain and simple Rust-Oleum.
One other thing that Trudy did, I wish she was here to talk about it, but she made contact with her friend from Compass. And so I was on a call with her and school districts about getting teaching artists into North. Maybe there's some way that we can work with it. Because I love the idea of working with juxtaposition arts, but I love working with our kids more, you know? Or Century College.
Well, I was waiting.
Well, I
There's
think
no
this
way.
is that, there's two things that we could potentially say, hey, is this it, like,
Well, there's
nothing.
so many opportunities.
Yeah. Two things right off the bat where we could talk to them about. I mean, it doesn't have to happen right away. But, Century College may be another potential for this. Okay, well, so I think we had the only other thing was Lisa Ritchie, a call for volunteers and web form, and that's there.
Done, yeah, and she did move it to a more convenient.
Okay, so let's move on then, because we had,
I'm gonna stop you for just a quick
Okay.
second so I can get this noted. So we have, did you say it was juxtapose, Lisa?
Juxtaposition art,
JUXTA.
POSITON, but I think it sounds like that would be kind of lower on the priority list.
Well,
If
I
there
think,
are other opportunities.
sure, but I think we can at least reach out and maybe for future engagement. And we have, Trudy's was Compass. And we also mentioned Century College. Okay, thanks. Sorry to hold you up. Is anyone going to reach out to any of these locations?
which ones?
Juxtapose, Compass, or Century College? Does anyone want to reach out so that we can find out if it's,
Well,
anyone's available.
Stacy, I think you want to follow up with Century once we get to that.
Yes.
Talk about that, yeah. I think there's so Stacy's got some communication going with Century that
Okay,
looks kind of promising.
good.
So maybe we'll circle back with that.
All right, and then next on our list.
So next on our list is reports from staff. So there was a report on creating our own Facebook page. And I know I had some of these, it's just, yeah.
So what I found out about that. We can do that, we just cannot brand ourselves as being North St. Paul, part of the city. I mean, we are a commission for the city, but we can't use their logo. And then we have to be careful about the way we word things. So if somebody wanted to create and manage North St. Paul Arts and Culture Facebook page, we can certainly do that.
Oh, so is that like, well, what is the police and fire do? Is that kind of the same thing? They kind of just manage their own?
Do they have a website? page?
Facebook,
Facebook?
yeah.
They must.
What's it? I know, because like, one of them got in trouble. So,
Oh, yeah, it
because
will-
nobody's, because like you say, nobody's like controlling what gets posted,
Yes.
whatever. It's whoever has access. to
Yes,
those.
yeah, and I know the Parks and Rec also had issues too.
Yeah.
So it'll get flagged if something goes on there that shouldn't.
So we can do a Facebook page.
Mhm.
Does anybody want to do a Facebook? Anybody use Facebook?
I think Instagram would be more appropriate than Facebook, but
Which is fine.
it's tricky.
Hmm.
Instead of information, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
You share information through posting pictures or short videos.
Yeah.
or-
new volunteers.
Do people think that, do people use Facebook?
I don't think, I think us in this room might. People that are of a younger generation might not. They lean more towards different social media. I actually proposed to table Facebook until the end of the summer. I feel like we have a lot of things happening right now.
Okay, I think it was mostly just to try and drum up volunteers, so I mean, I think.
That was the purpose.
I mean, because, well, Carrie Griffenbach posts on our behalf. So if we say, can you post this on the city page?
Yes,
Yeah,
You can
yes,
do that.
yeah.
because there's a city,
Newsletter.
you mean the city Facebook?
Yeah, if we can
Yeah,
just,
can't
if we can
just
write
use
a
the
post
city
for
Facebook
her.
page?
we can
Yeah.
Have her
Then
do
we don't
it.
have to manage a whole separate one. Yeah, why don't we
Correct.
do that?
I think there will be a point in time where it'll behoove our committee to manage a separate one from the city, because then we're
Sure.
controlling it and we don't have to.
So I like what you're thinking there. So table this Arts and Culture Commission one. In the meantime, we still have the City of North St. Paul one where the Arts and Culture Commission can have things posted. So is there anything that we want to post right now? Or do we want to just, we know that as a decision when we do have something we want to post?
I think for volunteers for the art cart, timing is going to be more appropriate to announce something more in May. I think it's too early right now to announce.
Okay,
Ooh, that gives me an idea. What we could do once, Lisa's laughing at me. I love that. Once we decide, once we get more engaged with all of this, we should actually create a schedule of our Facebook posts.
like when we want something to be posted.
Yes, yes, even if it's just kind of a, get her, at least, well, they say you should do it weekly. I don't think until we manage our own site, that's not feasible, but I think for now, please, monthly, good idea.
Okay, so that says, well, simplified path to donate to the arts culture arts and culture on the city website.
That was done.
That was done?
Yeah.
You go to government and then under commissions and authorities, you click on Arts and Culture Commission. And then at the bottom of the page, there is a support their projects with a link.
Okay, well, that's good.
Thank you, Lisa.
Update on filling commission vacancy. I've seen it advertised in a number of places. You know if we're getting any applications or
I haven't heard.
Do you have to live in the city to be a commissioner?
Yeah, there's one person I know that did sign up or apply. So.
Good.
And she has a communication.
Great.
Storytelling.
anything? I wonder if also I should go back to some of the original applicants.
I might want to ask the Century College professors too, if any of them have attended the same thing, because they expressed interest in wanting a commissioner from Century
Right.
on our commission.
Yeah. I know, I was thinking about that from what they were saying, and I'm like,
I didn't know how to respond.
I
I
was
was
like-
just like, I'm just gonna put this one to
I see you
Tom.
working there, and I was kind of, here's the thing. We can talk about it when we get to that. My thing was like, they can come to every meeting.
I
They don't
know,
have to have a seat on the commission.
I know. I heard.
Well, because then it's all of a sudden like, are they pulling them towards, because Century College, you know, are they trying to influence the council for the commission for that? So, okay, so there's no other update on the vacancy. Okay. Update on call for volunteers on city website.
That what he was saying, it's been posted. I don't know of any applications.
Update on our car project, we already did that. ACC apparel design logo.
Oh, yeah, I have that. So looking for feedback on the draft. Judy wanted the beret for snowman. So this is just a draft for our first thoughts on this. Do we want an outline? Do we want it to look more realistic? Give me some direction of where you want to take our logo. Or start over.
Well, this looks, well, the one thing is that this looks like the snowy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the intention.
So here's my initial feeling about it. Is this, for me, my initial reaction is that it looks like craft wagon, like it's a thing for kids.
Yep.
I feel very, yes, childish. It looked like which is okay. It's not a bad thing. And my first thought was the Stay Puft Marshmallow.
That's
Just
true.
because with the hat, he had the sailor
that's
hat
right.
or whatever, and he had
Oh.
like,
So
which
you
is
don't-
okay. It's not bad.
Do you not want the beret?
The beret means art, so I
Well,
like that.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess I like to think of something that's just my opinion, is it something that's a little more classy isn't the right word. That's not the right thing, but it's more like a mature, established commission that is for the purpose. It's more sophisticated,
Okay.
yes.
So
that's-
that people
yes.
take the commission seriously and
Yeah.
don't think we're just a kid craft
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
project.
You know, that you even think about that like in the font that you use for arts and culture, commission, right? Like, we don't want to see Comic Sans as the font for.
How dare you?
What's wrong with comics? I'm just kidding.
No,
Nicely played.
It's gotta be Times New Roman. No.
Calibri, man, all the way.
Yeah.
What, do you want to be consistent with North St. Paul or not?
Well, I'm not sure what the current one was.
What is
So-
the branding? Is there a branding standard in the city of North St. Paul where the department is listed underneath? So it can say arts and like have the North St. Paul logo with Arts and Culture Commission underneath it.
Yeah, it'd be probably that one, and I think that was designed by custom.
No modifying snow type color or too late.
Well, this is different though. This is,
It is.
well,
It's
this,
not. I
Oh,
think.
because
How
it's
would it
not
be
that
used?
logo, right? It's
Yeah.
not, we're not modifying. it.
that logo. And yes, we can use, I just have to check with our commissioner, communications gal, but, as far as I know, we can use that logo.
This is Minion.
Oh,
So-
man.
If anything, I'd rather see the old Snowman logo. I like that
I
one.
like, yeah.
Remember this one? Where it's kind of
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
He had a big smile.
Didn't that one have actually get like smaller at the bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it
It's
kinda
still on
had-
the streets.
it Had this movement to it, you know? I like that.
Yeah, what if there's a snowman museum and it's just a collection of all?
Oh,
So like, where do you add your departments in this schematic? Because I don't see any of that.
No, it's not currently there. It would have to be created.
Okay.
I like where you're headed with this. You know, I like this idea of taking the snowy silhouette and doing something different with it. I wonder though if the beret and the paintbrush are pinning us too much in the arts column and not
Mhm.
enough in the culture column. So could we, I don't know, overlay it with some kind of cultural representation? Like what is our demographic? What is our main demographic of North St. Paul?
Well, one thing that I feel pretty strongly about is we want to be very neutral
Neutral in what, how do you?
in culture. Like we don't want to identify as one, you know,
Yeah,
represent one more than another. So I think we need it.
And this is just like a silhouette of a logo.
and this is only representing the French. if I'm saying.
The what? The
The
French?
French.
And it's paint.
Yeah, so that was really my thought with this was I thought of the snowy
Yeah.
sculpture.
Which makes sense, yeah, and I think, you know, I like kind of what you're thinking of. A very simple silhouette, without, you know, doing too much. So because then it lets you kind of think your own things about what it
It
should be.
does, but I'm always thinking money, and it is the least expensive way to go when it comes to any kind of printing,
Mm. Because of like single color,
single color.
yeah, right.
Or even if it was an embroidery outline,
Yeah.
you do one color. just to
Right.
the outline. I think it would look less childish if it was just an embroidered outline
Yeah.
on something, potentially. Do berets have that little ding at the top?
I think so.
Yeah,
Or is it just a little button?
no, the ones that I looked at on Pinterest
I
had
think they
that.
have a little thing.
Pinterest and Etsy had that. I could shorten it,
Yeah, I think
or we can go in a different direction altogether. What about something similar to this outline, shorter thing on the top?
I don't know what to call it. It's weird. A tassel, I guess.
Tassel.
And then the
Sorry.
bottom, like redesign the bottom so it's more like that, where the middle is bigger and the bottom is smaller. What do you think of that, Tom?
oh, like this.
Yeah,
I'm trying to- Yeah, yeah.
facing.
And to be honest, that's one thing I don't really care for with the existing statue is the way the arms are, but that is what it is, and that's what it's going to be. So. And a hat.
Does this one have a hat?
No, but we're creating our own
We're
here.
creating our,
Yeah, I don't think we'd be able to use the old one.
why not?
If we could use this one, why couldn't we use the old one?
Well, I could find out.
Yeah, I don't.
I meant the beret. I'm sorry.
Huh?
I meant the beret.
Oh, yeah.
You don't like the beret?
I kind of like that.
And then we can eliminate the hat. I think that was Trudy's idea for the beret.
Will it have a feet brush? So like, is there a trade-off?
I don't think we need to though. I think having the words Arts and Culture Commission should be enough.
Well, yeah, that's kind of, yeah, that's the direction. It's like, even, what if you just said no hat, just like I just like the old snowman because of the movement in it, and
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be that exact one, but we can use that exact one. I'm down with that. But you know, just this simple, like a blank slate, having it like a canvas, you know, and it's like, now it's anything you want it to be,
Yes.
you know,
Well, and that would be easy enough to create.
right? And so,
Okay. So,
I mean, I'm not saying it should look just like this, but I just wanted to kind of
no,
play
that's
around with
exactly
the
what I
lettering.
need.
I don't
Give me-
understand why the branding of the city has to have the word extraordinary in it everywhere as
That was
well.
because the city manager at that time, this was his thing.
Okay.
Like all this, as we
What
still
is
have
it?
all
That's
those
the
values
tagline.
there.
Yeah.
Because that's where it like, so from a marketing perspective, when you create a brand, like if you look at the U of M, their branding stuff is public. That extraordinary, you would swap out to say Arts and Culture Commission or Public Works or Finance, or so that you have consistent, like that extraordinary shouldn't be part of the brand. It should be swappable. Like if it's general, you keep extraordinary in, but if it's a department, that's what you slide it in that same font, same color for
Sure.
everyone, so you can have your own identity through the words that are
Yeah.
in the logo, but it's all the same. Which can be like interpreted as boring or not creative, but it keeps everyone.
Okay. So those are two options that we can work with. And I can bring back
Yeah, and
those ideas.
and
next
with
time.
this is no rush. So I think this is something we can play around with.
Well, with exception.
We'll just keep sending you back to the drawing board every month, Lisa. until-
Draft a few.
Yeah.
There is a reason I left that industry town.
People like me. Is that what you're saying?
Design by committee is not always easy, you know?
No, and
General is
you know, and I've worked
Yeah.
with a lot of different artists over the years for different things, and working with artists can be really tricky too, because you don't want to offend them. That's like,
Oh,
Right.
don't worry about offending me. If anything, tell me what you don't like. and
This is
can go
terrible.
In a different direction.
kidding.
Just need feedback.
No,
It's
no, I
fine.
think,
And
no.
that's what I struggle with the most. And honestly, when you see the celebration poster as well, I struggled with that because I wanted something totally different, but I need feedback.
So
So
what? Poster?
the 135-year anniversary celebration.
Oh, did you, is that?
Yeah, I
done?
have that as well. So.
Okay, so we're gonna kind of move on from this one now. We will do that. And then we had new design ideas for banners,
Yeah, that's what it is.
simpler design. Oh, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
By the way, the commissioner, I have action and to reach out to Carrie regarding the commissioner and add to Facebook page. That's been done, right?
I'm sorry. Yes, that's done. So are we at that now?
Yes, we are on new design ideas for banners.
So where I'm at with that, I made the decision to move forward with the 135-year anniversary celebration because that's the one that the mayor was originally asking for. And then it just came up because I learned that those banners, the street pole banners, were from our 125-year anniversary. So, and I did hear some feedback that some of those need to be replaced because they're in disrepair. So I'm looking at two separate projects here. They can coordinate, but they don't necessarily have to do that because the 135-year anniversary celebration is going to be a banner that we're going to post most likely on the fire department, above the doors. I looked into one that would go across the street. I know Terry Furlong thought that would be really cool. But when I looked into that, Brian Crandall, I talked to him, the electric director, and he said that he doesn't advise that. They haven't done it in North St. Paul since he's been here, but he's done it in other cities that he worked at. And he said they can be very hazardous if a big wind catches them. He goes, they can literally like pull out. So, yeah. And I know we have posted banners on the fire station before. So I just thought that would be an appropriate place. Doesn't 100% have to be there, but it's just an idea. So this is, I got 3 options here. Oh, I can pull it up on the screen too. My first thought when we talked about color code was I wanted to do alcohol ink and splatter it. And then I started questioning how I don't know, like for resolution, if something like that is doable when you get into something, because that's going to be 4 feet by 48 feet.
It might
right?
be easier to read the
48.
text if the middle snowman wasn't there.
We could do that. Yep.
So if it was like the darkest banner without the middle snowman,
Yeah,
then you could read it.
the top and bottom are a little easier to read.
Okay, so yeah. So are you okay with the design concept then? Or do you want something totally different? I like that. Okay. And then so that's the white background. That's just our standard blue, and this one has a vignette over it to darken it. And we have a choice preference between the white background or
I kind of
the
like that third one where it's a gradation to it.
okay.
But I agree with Stacy that it's the font in the center is a little hard to read with this.
Okay.
Maybe there's invert color in the middle snowman or something.
We're just eliminating it completely.
Yeah.
And a little bit more.
Or do you make the middle one like Tom suggested, darker? So that the white truly pops.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
And then there's a little more differentiation. They're not all exactly the same.
Yeah, I like the number, well, from a design fundamental, odd numbers are better than even, so that's why I went with 3. I actually had outlined the text in black, but then with the font, you could literally see like where the letters overlap, there'd be an outline in the middle of.
No.
And we don't want
The
that.
white looks good as is, but I like Tom suggested.
Okay.
dark.
Oh, and maybe you could take the 1887 and put that on the left-hand side and the 2022 on the right-hand side.
Okay.
For balance. I like that.
You guys don't like asymmetrical?
Oh, absolutely not. I am
Tom,
so
that's not
German in
you.
that way.
That is not you, is
I
it?
need absolute symmetry.
Really?
Oh, my God,
Oh,
yes.
gosh, no.
I am
I
like,
suppose your furniture lines the walls in your house too.
what does that mean?
Well, I'm just asking.
We're supposed to go. in the middle of the room.
What's wrong with that, Lisa?
You don't have like an angled sofa? or-
Oh, God, no.
Furniture
No.
lining on
It's
the
crazy. Wasting space.
Sorry, Carrie.
My furniture lines the walls in my house and I don't.
Just saying. Okay, so I got that. We're gonna wait.
All that order. That's what I said. I'm not a creative person. Like when, what's a craft we can do?
And actually, most of my furniture does my walls as well. but I
Feng shui. Because, so I agree with you on the design, like odd numbers works. When I look at this design, I feel like the outside snowmen are a design element and then the middle text is a design element. That's why I would maybe mock up removing the snowman in the middle altogether. Or darkening the snowman in the middle.
But this is for the thing on the fire department, right? This is not for the things on the light. poles.
Correct. Yeah, we would need to go with the horizontal.
Well, the other thing that's good is it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
And you know, you want a simple, clean design. I mean, I think that's the problem with the things that are in the light. bulb.
Even just that blue, that dark blue with the snowman and incorporating 135 years, and that's all the banner says.
Okay.
That's all like for the light posts.
Oh,
Yes.
That's sharp. It catches your eye. You don't have to be like, what is the history?
Yeah.
Or
I
like,
don't know that we'll do the 135 years for the light pole, because I think those are gonna be permanent.
but even then, you could say,
We could do the north.
you
side
could just do
column.
the blue snowman banner
Or
without any text
Yeah.
on it, just that
agree.
dark blue.
Or like just I like where you're going with that. Or just have like 1887 on there.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh, I like
it's like
that.
production were established.
EST 1887. Yeah,
Like
because
a
see, I mean, look
snowman.
by the domino sign.
Yeah, I'm looking at those.
It's
ones
just-
that- yeah.
Looks like nothing from a distance, but if you, from a distance, you could
I
see
do like
that
that.
outline,
Yep, so we've got the vignetted
that
blue,
contrast.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
and then we've got established 1887.
I would just do
EST,
EST.
yep,
Yeah,
yep, down below it, like in the corner.
I think that's the beauty of that.
Yeah.
Simple snowman is that you don't.
Everybody knows what it is.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like when you have a icon like that. Like, you don't need to spell it out.
okay, well, that covers
It's just-
two things, and
yeah.
this won't take long.
Cool.
Good. I thought you guys were gonna say, this is all you can do on this one. Yeah, because I just had, like I said, I wanted to use alcohol ink with all these different colors, and then take
It's what?
alcohol. Alcohol ink.
I have it
just
just up against the wall. What do you expect, Lisa?
Can you drink it?
No, but you can get torch on it, start it on fire.
You can start anything.
Not in your, not in, not.
I want to party with you.
not-
She starts her alcohol on fire. No, I think that's. All right, cruising. So we're on item 10 and reports from commissioners, and we had Stacy status of Bigley Auto Body, and you kind of already did that, right?
Mhm, correct.
And then the next thing was Trudy and Carrie discussed the build-up plan for executing the snowfall project.
Yeah.
We already talked about that. And then the next thing was. I like that a lot.
Mhm.
That's alcoholic.
It just like flows.
Oh, I thought it was like you drink enough alcohol. Okay, mural RFP with Kai. So basically, I sent Kai, I toyed around with the RFP, simplified it a little bit to align with this project, sent it to Kai, had a Zoom meeting with him, and
basically, it's just that we said, okay, you gotta just. What it boiled down to is, since we're only talking to one artist right now, there's a lot of the RFP where it's like, it's not, some of it is just necessary unless we want to get more. And then there were other things where there's a lot of stuff in the RFP that was about the community engagement stuff and that kind of thing. It's like, well, might not do that at all. I mean, because this is a private property thing. So we kind of just talked through it. And basically, I said, there's two things that have to happen. One, we need to get some design ideas. And so that there's something for us to kind of work with. And two, we need to get some estimates. You know, how much are we looking at here? So I'm gonna send this to you, Lisa Ritchie, if you want to bring this up. Because he was then messing around with an idea that he had on the computer while I was talking to him. And then he sent this to Susanna. And then he called Susanna afterwards. She said, it was talkative and so much for time, potential water tower. And our wall is 85 long by 12 high. So we're trying to think of. So if you want to see the design idea that he's playing around with and that he has shared with Susanna. Just got here. It's 1,000 square feet. That's what I say. How much the-
Oh.
Yeah.
Does Suzanne, or it's Suzanne, right? Does she like
Susanna.
it?
I think so. I have no idea what they, you know, I mean, they were talking about it. I have no idea where they went.
It's fun and colorful and fits with the color scheme of the love sign.
It's safe.
Safe?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was expecting a little more.
something up to you.
I was hoping for
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Carrie.
What's the milk water? I don't understand.
That's a regular, but it's, yeah, she's sugar free, so, yeah. I guess the one thing that I'm not in favor of is the ground. Oh, is that all our lakes? Minnesota's 10,000. Oh, okay, now I get it.
In the background, is there some spaceship taking off?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that what's happening?
so.
Zoom in.
I think, I think he was playing around with, so there's this character here. This is kind of like this is kind of a icon character that he came up with. Now this is kind of like his stamp that he uses on everything. So that little character, so when he first showed it to me, he had those in big black. I'm like, well, that's not gonna work. So he just pulled them out. But I think he was looking at this for, you know, he had this idea for something else and then he was starting to drop in ice cream.
I'm not
trucks
sure.
for this.
The other thing, would it be like too prescriptive to ask him to hide a snowman somewhere?
I don't think so. There's other stuff hiding in there too. What's that, what they call Easter eggs? So,
Right. Like the cloud on the three dots on the far right seems to be indicative of something.
yes, that's the yellow submarine in the Beatles. And it looked like there was more of it when I first saw that. So
it was like more easy to tell that it was the outline of the yellow submarine.
Sure.
Beetles.
Shoot.
Well, I mean, the idea is that we would help connect the funding to the artist. And, you know, so the idea with the commission here is that we're kind of facilitators. You know, we're helping to bring people together to make it
I
happen.
thought
But that,
she requested financial support from us when she met with us.
I think she had asked, but
yeah, it wouldn't, I do not see any of this coming from the Arts Commission budget. You know, I mean, we only have whatever, $7,000. So it would not be appropriate for us to be involved in funding, I don't think, a private thing, even though it benefits the city. I mean, maybe.
I mean, if it's across the board, like. Whatever, but, yeah, and then, well, my question would be then, like, how much authority does this commission have directing those artists? Like, you know,
You know, it's, I think, as much or as little as we want, I guess, you know, and ultimately it's up to Susanna, I think. And so for us, it's going to be more like, well, we have an opportunity because if we're helping to facilitate and trying to bring the funding to the artist and the artist to the canvas, that we have an opportunity to influence it because it will become a part of our town.
Because of that, does this mural violate sign ordinances at all?
art's not.
Art's not included in a sign advertising? Okay. I know
Is
that
it really
really had
add?
issues in Roseville. They,
Mm,
Old Chicago painted a mural on the side of their wall on Harmar and the city made them remove it.
Does it
Let me
say
double
what
check,
Chicago
but
is?
I'll make sure that.
That's fine. So if it, this doesn't say love ice cream.
Right.
yeah, once you put your name in there, then it's a sign, and then it falls under the sign ordinance. And there are limitations on size, which I'm sure probably were violated in those ordinance.
So, man, this did, also the same big, 1,020 square.
I will say though, where it's located is a bunch of dull gray walls. Very industrial, not very appealing. That, something that bright and colorful. I think the colors in and of itself are bold enough to have this not be considered as safe as we might think it
Well, I think it's interesting feedback, you know, and I can talk to them and say, hey, the commission was underwhelmed and I was safe.
is. Hashtag to there.
Yeah,
Please.
So,
No, it's
artists-
beautiful, but
So let me ask you this, it just, there's something with the color palette in it. Now, I like bright, vibrant colors, but I don't see it being cohesive. Does anybody else get that feeling? Like if you look at a color palette or a color wheel, like if you're looking for
it's very Lisa Frank to me.
Where's that?
Lisa Frank is a very bright, vibrant artist that often makes unicorns and stickers that are very attractive to kindergarten through third grade girls. Maybe high school, maybe older too. Nostalgia. It was like the hot, if you had a Lisa Frank folder or notebook, I mean, wow. Yeah.
so if we, you know, these murals too, they can go for, the mural artists are charging anywhere from $10 to $50 a square foot. If it's $25 a square foot. That's $25,000.
Yes. So here's an idea, being as there's pink in this, what about, she liked the idea of doing a pink wall. And then a smaller portion, like in the center of her wall,
Mhm.
have the image
So,
with a border.
yeah,
So it looks like a picture hanging on the wall.
I see what you're saying. I mean, so I think that's something that we can maybe, we can talk with Susanna about that. And again, I mean, what does Susanna want? That's why I was like, I talked to kind of like, you two need to talk to each other and figure out what she wants.
Yeah.
And what's gonna work.
Yeah.
But then we also have to get an idea of what the cost is gonna be. So that, I mean, that's more in our thing, or,
So
yeah, of what we should be doing. So thanks for like giving me the right words. But, so I think for our thing then, it does look like we need to be looking at more like $20,000 to $30,000 to try and fund it.
Yeah.
And, honestly, I was talking to Kai, because at first he said, how much are you thinking in this project? And I said, probably $7,000 to $10,000. He's like, okay, that sounds doable. But he didn't know what the square footage was.
Yeah.
And when I talked to him the other day, he goes, it might be more like 20 to 30. I'm like, whoa.
So a third of the size would be how big?
A third of the size would be like 333 square feet.
So I'm thinking rectangle.
And again, I mean, that's up to
That'd be like-
Susanna. It's her building, what
Yeah.
she want to do with it.
Right.
But just understand, these are conversations that I think, so maybe I can connect with Susanna again and say, hey, let's talk a little bit further about this, because what are you thinking with the art and what are you thinking about the whole size? Because if she wants to do that whole wall painted in color to any level of detail or whatever, we're looking at, $20,000 to $30,000.
She's looking at a $20,000 to $30,000 investment.
Yeah, and that's where, but, and if our involvement then is to try and help connect, funding for that. It's like, okay, well, that's, it's harder to get that much than it is to get 10,000 or whatever. So it's just and I think that's all good. I think it's just working through the realities of it.
Mhm.
Just see what we come up with.
Mhm.
So why don't I'll take that away to connect with those two again and say, hey, let's just keep talking through ideas.
That sounds great.
Mhm.
And we will help facilitate the funding, correct?
And so, yeah, so I need that, and I know that, Carrie, I think you had some of that information, and then Trudy had a lot of that information on like, who are the funders, where's the money?
Yeah.
And how can we help try and facilitate this?
Yeah, there's that whole spreadsheet.
Okay. So then the next thing was Trudy online journal, she's not here. And then an update from Stacy on art programs at colleges and student thesis collaboration possibilities.
So I cast a small net I've only reached out to Century College so far based on proximity and location
Yeah, it makes
where
sense.
we are. Got an immediate response that was really excited. I reached out to their she's their department chair on their website, and she's a professor of art history. Her name is Dr. Megan Arnie Johnston. And her response to my solicitation was a request to have a Century representative on our commission, if that was possible. She is looking for volunteers at their new gallery, along with collaborations on artist talks and community art endeavors. And she does think there's thesis project overlaps and support, or would seek support from our commission. They have their gallery opening tomorrow night between 5 and 7 p.m., but did not tell me where that gallery was exactly. 2 people have referred to this big gallery opening at Century, but I have no idea how to find it if I wanted to go. Somewhere I can, and Century's not huge, I'm
No,
sure.
probably the Wayne Hall for the Fine Art Building. If you just enter there, I'm sure you walk right into it.
There's a fine art.
Right, I didn't know that, but so when she responded to my inquiry, I believe she copied her entire faculty, which isn't big, it is small. I mean, they're a community college, so she copied a few people, and then Melissa Borman is the chair of Fine and Performing Arts and exhibitions coordinator, art and gender studies faculty. She is also enthusiastic about working with our committee, but after their new gallery opening tomorrow, because I'm sure there's a lot happening with that. So I did share with them that all of our meetings are public and that they are welcome to join via Zoom if they can't come in person, and that we've got public comment sessions. I do think it would be interesting to invite them, or formally to maybe come to the main meeting and have a discussion with us if we have time, just to see what they might be interested in. I could also meet with them between now and then to just share some ideas that we had, like, for example, the thesis project collaborations and what kind of opportunities North St. Paul might be able to present with that. The trick, well, what gets tricky with a project like the City Council chambers is City Council is going to want to have some sort of say in it.
Oh, yeah.
And art thesis projects can sometimes be more risk-taking than safe for a public platform like that. So that might be some things to consider, and they might have a way to navigate that as well, as experts in that field.
I would think, like, if I'm a faculty member and I've got somebody that has to do some kind of art project, having to deal with a government entity would be a great test. You know, and it's not just government. I think anytime you're working with, it's not just your thing that you're totally in control of, because I think that's more real world experience oftentimes. For a lot of people, they get some degree of the fine arts, they're going to be out working with people who are going to have a say in what you're doing. You don't just do whatever you want and hang it up in the gallery.
What I like about this potential avenue of collaboration for our commission is it's not just a lane of a specific area of art. They do seem to have art and culture kind of as their department, with performing arts, with visual arts, etc. So like future collaborative events to expand what we're doing seems plausible. Is this happening?
It does.
Yeah.
I think there's a ton of potential here.
And they were extremely responsive.
Yeah.
I shot an email their way on the morning of the 4th, and they responded in an hour and 1 minute. I mean, it was like she was on it. I know. So that's promising,
They need more
right?
to do.
Well, or they're really excited about this
Yeah,
opportunity.
that's what it seemed like to me.
I don't know how often that department might get solicited by something like this.
Sure.
And so we might have some big opportunities to make a really good connection. I think it's also important that our city also has a current connection with Century College and the Northeast Metro 916 program with the health buildings, the building projects that we do. So that could be another, like, we don't have to recreate the wheel. It's already a relationship that's in place. We're just enhancing it. And helping learners from a different angle too, in a different niche field. That have a high potential of actually being from our town. It's Century's located, so. That's what I know.
Would you be
So,
able to forward me some notes on that?
I can forward you the whole email string if you like.
so what do you think, like, would it make sense to just meet with them? You know, and Stacy, I'd be happy to join you, but like, we want to just meet between now and our next meeting with them and just say, hey, you know, love your interests. Here's a couple things we got cooking right now, and maybe we can explore how we can go further with this. I am thinking about for our next meeting, I'm feeling concerned, like we need a lot of time to ensure that we're really ready to go with the art cart, because that's kind of our most pressing thing. We're saying this thing is going to happen, and I want to make sure that we really execute on that one.
Yeah.
And
Well, let me ask you this, can it happen even if it is not?
of course,
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, thank you, Stacy. The only other thing, like I said, it will depend on volunteers.
Yep. So I think that if there's anything we need to do between now and then, or between then and when we have, between our May meeting and when we have the first art cart, I think we're gonna just want to make sure we have all our ducks in a row,
Okay.
so
Yep.
that we can do well with that. Not having the art cart, you know, painted or something, if we can get that done by the end of the year, it would be fantastic.
Okay.
I think.
Sure.
Because that's just going to be hard to line that all
And
up.
that could be another project for an art, that could be a great thesis project for a Century.
Exactly, yeah. Mhm.
I think that project might be a great test run before we give the city council chambers.
Yeah.
a
Do
go
they
first.
also have the auto body? Maybe they even have an auto body.
Oh.
thing in the Century.
They
That'd
probably
be
do.
another potential.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Oh,
the
that'd be
backdrop
so cool.
for the council chambers, you know, that could be done differently too, where you're saying, hey, we want to take submissions. Your folks, and one of them may
Yes,
be selected to be the thing, but it could be just an exercise.
and going
come
through
up
a
with
submissions
ideas. Yeah,
process
right.
with an outside, with a non-academic.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's one way we can play that, so that we're like, we're not promising anybody anything, but
Right.
if it does, we could do this, and then there could be some money involved for the student that is selected or whatever. If that's it.
I'm excited about this partnership.
Yeah, so
Potential.
what do you
So
think? Do we want to meet, do you want to meet between now and May?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let me connect. I might connect with them Friday, maybe.
Okay.
I was considering trying to show up at this gallery.
You should,
tomorrow night. I just don't know
absolutely.
where to go, but I could probably figure it out. Yeah. And they're gonna be overwhelmed with adrenaline and likely extremely exhausted because it is a big event to pull off. So yeah, I'll connect with them and we'll.
Yeah, so I got an
I'll
action,
copy you.
just you and I will meet with them
Yep.
between now and our next meeting.
Mhm.
And then I think that is it. So I'm just trying to think ahead for next time, really focusing on, you know, we'll have a Project Snowy update. We'll have art cart finalization discussion. We'll have a mural update, and then we'll have a Century update. So there's our agenda for next.
And we all come in Star Wars
Is that what our meeting is? For?
Yes, it is.
Tom, will you repeat what should be on the agenda?
So we'll have a project snowy update.
Yeah.
We'll have a mural project update, a Century College update, and art cart finalization, prep and finalization or something for kickoff.
We're like building agendas now that are constructive and wonderful.
So I'm wondering if we should try to, do you want to maybe for the car shows? Well, actually, we need to decide on what that project's gonna be, but if I was gonna say if we set a dollar limit, if we wanted to start, no, we don't actually have to order anything yet. We just have to get the idea.
Like what to do for the car show.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
activity, yeah.
and getting the supplies.
Search.
Can you just sign up for the car show? I've never
No,
done a car show.
no, the car show is invited. Actually, there's people from all over that come and bring their.
Do we have to actually connect with this History City
Oh.
Cruisers to say we're bringing this art cart to
Oh.
the car
Probably.
show?
Well,
Yes.
oh, you're right.
When it comes to vendors and everything, you know, they're selective about that.
The
But if
public
it's a
works is gonna
city,
drop off our,
yeah, if it's a city thing. then-
and we'll put it on the city-owned property, which is that, where that gas station was, I think is what we decided, right?
Oh, so that we
city-
don't have to ask them for
Yeah,
permission?
that city-owned
Where
property.
what gas station?
That fake
The
little cars.
corner.
19
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, that's
oh,
the
well,
car.
is that not there anymore?
It'll probably come back, but we can still use that
Oh,
area
yeah, okay,
because
great.
that's city-owned property.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Okay,
Perfect.
so we wouldn't need that permission.
Cool.
Should we put some dates so that we can all put our calendars?
Yeah, so we
Sure,
just
can-
said June and August, so
Yeah,
I am gone for 2 weeks in June,
let's not do that.
going to Ireland.
Oh,
Just booked my tickets.
I am out June 3rd. That night will not work for me, and I actually will miss our June 7th or June 8th. No, I'll be here. We'll be back. It's a Wednesday.
So I would actually, I'll be here for our June meeting.
When is the first car show?
Isn't it?
I swear I just saw this. It might be like,
June 3rd.
it's
is
June
the
3rd.
first
The first
date.
one. Yes, I wondered if it was the weekend, or the Friday after Memorial Day.
That is probably going to be the date with the biggest attendance of maybe. I mean, or maybe not.
They also have, don't they
It's
have
been
like,
growing.
don't they have big truck night or something? Where people, kids can go and
Oh,
play
that
on,
would be a good night to coordinate it with.
kids go and play on the.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Vehicles.
wrong. when that is.
But I think,
There is no car show on June 17th because of Back to the 50s.
do you use your Apple Pen a lot?
Mm-hmm.
What program do you use it or what app?
It's the Apple Pencil and you can find it in your settings.
What do you use, but is there a certain, do you use OneNote or whatever?
Procreate.
Oh, I just
One,
know.
Notes.
Directly on
I got this thing and I'm like, I want to do that, but then I haven't gotten the habit. But then can you bring other documents into the notes?
So,
You're definitely right.
agendas.
And then I think you can convert it to text too, right?
I gotta just.
I
take
don't
the
use
time.
it for that, I just use it to write it up.
So they don't necessarily have like theme nights listed on their schedule right now.
No.
But they do have a contact Sandy.
Fabio, yep, she's the coordinator for the card show. But like I said, we wouldn't have to, I can send her an email, but I was, we don't have to coordinate with her because we're purchasing the art.
Yeah.
Card on city and property.
I do think it would be really wise for us to give them a friendly heads up.
Oh, sure,
Because just showing, like, I just don't want to create ill.
yeah.
We don't need no stinking permission.
So did we decide on a
For the
date?
Arts and Culture Commission, say hello to my little friend.
All right, July 27th is gonna be a food truck night with the band at Hosey, so we should have the art cart there. Was that one? Say that again, July 27th. I'm sorry. I'm-
Oh, that's a Wednesday.
Yes, there's gonna be a food truck night at Hosey Park. Or Laura thinks that might be a good night for us to
Oh,
have
that'd
an
be
art
great.
cart.
Oh,
I don't remember what. the
yeah,
date
no,
was.
that wasn't, is that one with music in the park?
I'm not sure.
I don't think it is.
That's just a
No, the
whole
music
different
in the
thing.
park is,
I think it's a whole different thing.
Thursdays at KC.
yeah,
But she said she's willing to help us with any volunteers we need. So.
Okay.
I think we should go, I know Tom's gonna be in Ireland, but June 10th is the second car show. That actually might be better because even as a North St. Paul community person, I always tend to forget about the first one. Sounds horrible, right?
and I know that one will work for me, June 10th.
And I don't have to be there.
You can be at the August one for sure.
So potentially June 10th.
So the car show goes until September 16th.
And then it butts up against the parade, right?
The parade is that night, I think, of the 16th. I don't know, it's
No.
weird on the calendar, it looks like the 15th might be
Maybe
the
a
parade,
different day.
a Thursday night. and then
Yeah,
The car show is Friday the 16th. So we could do like September 9th. We wanted to have our second, like our last one. It'd kind of be fun in a way, because it bookends the second one and the second to the last one, the summer of the season.
What date was that?
September 9th is the second to last date.
I'm down with that, and usually by then, yeah. People are done with vacation. That's after Labor Day.
Yeah, I think Labor Day must be September 5th, that Monday.
yeah, I think that. Not that I have to be there, but I will be out of town that weekend, the following 2 weeks. But I certainly will plan on my schedule.
In September.
Correct.
And the fair ends on the 5th, so it's
Right.
What?
You're right there.
Oh, yeah, state.
And that way, pushing the second car show event into September with the music in the park being in June, July, and August, at least it shouldn't be too overwhelming.
Sure.
Yeah, I like that. Just forward that idea.
So you're down with the September 9th then?
Yeah, I am, yeah, June, so currently proposing June 10th and September 9th.
Mm-hmm.
And then aren't the arts in the park dates already set? For the,
Yeah.
Those are set. For the
Music
music. in the park.
arts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the third Thursday of each month. That is
And then we had
June,
decided
July, and August.
for our other parks. We didn't figure that we were gonna
Well, July 27th.
figure out what we have for volunteers.
So,
And, what did we say fourth? And I know it's somewhere in the middle, but fourth week.
Yeah, sometime within that week.
Okay.
with the one that Laura suggested on July 27th, is that
Thing.
I think so. I think she was at pre-COVID and it was, you know, we have all food trucks outside Housing Park. Remember that?
So it'd be an additional event.
Well, or you could just have that be the fourth week of July event.
Mhm.
Even though it's
Oh.
like, if they show up earlier or whatever and stay through part of the week.
I don't know if they get it at Housing Park.
I don't even know where Housing Park is.
That's the thing.
And
It's,
third.
it's very residential.
Where is
So
it?
it's- Well, if you go down Margaret, it runs smack into it.
Uh-uh.
Right here.
No, Margaret doesn't. You have to turn left. Or to, well, if you're heading south, you have to turn left.
Like
Oh.
street.
Well, fourth,
Henry, right?
fourth
Fourth, it's
runs
between
around.
fourth and third. It has a ballpark, it has a
On what
nice,
street?
well, it's on third. So,
I'll look it up.
yeah. If you're on Margaret, you can either get to it if you turn on third or fourth.
Right.
So fourth, you come in the back way.
Yeah, what is it? Charles that runs into it, is that one?
Charles does, yes.
Third Avenue.
Third Street. No,
Avenue.
Avenue,
It's
Avenue,
because streets
Avenue.
run north and
Yeah,
south.
Avenue.
If you're at Love and you drive on that one street.
Yeah,
North.
yeah,
north,
you'd run right
then
into
you
that.
run right south and you're right into it. Yeah. They get a good turnout. They got a couple of-
It's not a huge.
It's not a huge part, but they did
It has a
rebuild that.
nice,
They did, yeah.
remodeled facility, it has a ballpark, it has, what else is it? That's about it. No, there's some playground.
You'd always have our, Cub Scout picnics.
Yeah, they do that's where they do the, fire and ice, because there's a skating rink. So, yeah, so that is,
Oh, okay, so now we have an update from council liaison.
Oh, yeah.
My agenda was-
Just a few quick updates, and some of them are just other events in the city, but there's a trash cleanup day on April 22nd and 23rd. The one on the 22nd is at Casey Lake at 5:30.
well, what is this?
The like trash cleanup at the Silver Lake.
Oh,
Association.
okay, just
Cleaning up the
around the
parks.
lake. okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking the other thing, the bulk pickup.
Yeah, that's happening too. And then April 23rd, Silver Lake. And we do have the citywide yard sale April 30th. And then the dump day is going to be shortened a little bit, from 8 to 11 instead of 8 to 1. The route is going to also change. It's supposed to be smoother. So the dump day, what is that?
Well,
It's like you can take any bulk drop off, whatever you want.
Where?
Public Works.
Oh, they're gonna make it easy, so it's, you know, because I heard that it's like a big line, a lot of people show up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they're gonna make 2 lines. One, I think one's gonna be specifically electronics, because a lot of
Yeah.
people are waiting for that, and then the rest. Get rid of.
well, there's not
Yeah.
hazardous waste being accepted, but pretty much everything else.
No railroad ties, Lisa.
No railroad
Keep
tie.
those
That's,
at home.
that's
I had a
hazardous.
wall built out of
People-
railroad ties and
People
they're
dropped them
soaked in
off last year
carousel.
and they're soaked with oil.
They're
and
soaked in
hazardous
carousel,
waste.
and so
Yes.
that I have a wall that I inherited when I bought this property that's this tall and like as long as this thing that's like rotting railroad ties.
Yeah.
You'd have to bring those down to the Ramsey County hazardous waste site.
Right.
Yeah.
Just right over there.
Yep, not
Oh,
far.
okay. Okay.
So the citywide garage sale though is the following week. That's in
Is it?
May.
Been
Yeah,
through the 7th.
When's
yeah,
dump day?
'cause
April 30th.
yeah,
We're all
that's a
thinking
citywide
that.
cleanup, yeah. And you can bring everything else. Well, and what happened last year and the reason they shortened it is people kept making multiple trips, like they bring their name.
Oh, jeez.
Well,
Yeah,
since
they're
they stopped
families.
bulk pickup without a charge,
Yeah.
people are waiting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's from 8 to 11.
$2.
And then planning has a meeting tomorrow which they'll go with sign ordinance, and they're also gonna be looking at the wayfinding signs. That's been a conversation with the parks and Rotary Park.
What is that? What's a waypoint?
It's kind of directional signs. I can give you an example. But we have a couple, like parking. Even the monument sign at Casey Lake was something. So,
Or the welcome to North St. Paul's.
I think the intention was to get people downtown, so that in the park, you know, point to different parks, like directly parks. Yeah.
And then the EDA selected a developer for the Lily building, so that will be a mixed-use building with apartments and then retail at the bottom, likely. So,
Lisa, can I ask, because I wasn't at that meeting, did they decide, is the city going to step back and let the contractor work directly with the owner?
yeah, I do believe the Lily building will be working, or directly with them. Yeah.
So the
EDA
Lily
is gonna-
building will be raised, but there's a developer. that builds it.
5 stories?
Really?
We discussed this last night, it'll probably be 4 is what they can feasibly do. So,
Lots of customers moving downtown.
yes, a lot. I think that one's like 100 each. Wow. I don't know why.
Does the city own that little gas station vacant thing in front of Target?
No.
Who owns it?
Oil
can. And
Yeah, Valvoline.
They still own it?
Yeah. Very high.
Oh, is that why it's sitting vacant?
Perhaps it's pretty steep. There's a new daycare that's opening up, so.
Oh, is that the one up here on 11 in midnight?
It is called Our Kids Walk In. On
Yes.
midnight.
Cool. And then it's like, my understanding it is, if you're in need of childcare for the day, you can just bring the kids there, right?
that's the one
I'm not sure.
connected to the chiropractor. Yeah, it's like, been there. Is it
It's
just-
new owners. And it's gonna be different, it's gonna be different. Yeah, before it was just like the rest. I think it's the only one that I'm aware of where you can, it's kind of like a drop off, you know, day by day. as
A la
needed.
carte.
Yeah. Yeah, rather than registration, which, I don't know how that'll work, but
I know.
There used to be a Montessori and my daughter went there.
oh, really?
It's fine.
Thanks. I want to back up just really quickly to talk, I didn't mention the chair meeting stuff. Just a couple things that came out of there of note. One, there was some discussion about getting dedicated funds through new development. And that's not a good pipeline for us. Kind of thought, oh, hey, we could get it in there and say as part of any new development. And it's really, there's statutory law for parks for that type of thing, but not for anything else. And people can fight that. So there's potentially opportunities if there's a TIF development, but we don't really want more TIF development.
They may need some sort of subsidy for new development. from the
Really?
city. It's possible, but.
Well, if that,
And John's really good at it.
if that does end up happening, then we can do a little quid pro quo for that. But the TIF stuff is just spun out of control.
I think it pushes for more of it.
Because
And different conversation.
I know.
For a
It's
different
just like,
day.
yeah, I think it was something that was originally intended to help fix blighted areas. And now it just became a way for developers to do anything if cheaper to get money.
Does that come back on the taxpayers then eventually? That's what,
So like in 20 years, then our tax rolls get nothing from the TIF areas for 20 years, or whatever the time period.
the city doesn't. So if we need more law enforcement because of it, where does that money come from?
That's the whole thing. So it's like, it'd be great in 20 years, but in the meantime, you have all these more people that move in, or that now there's more city resources that are needed. And that has to be, we have to shoulder that burden until we get more tax dollars. It's a drag, but everybody's doing it. So if you're a developer, you'd be crazy not to go after it. Volunteers risk concerns there. Open meeting law, we talked a lot about that, just that, especially for us, that most of our work is done in between meetings. Not really a lot of concern. They understand that we're going to have subgroups working.
Just don't reply all.
That's the big thing. Never use reply all on it.
If Soren could, he would take the reply all, but.
Right.
Reply out for what, from what perspective?
Open meeting.
Just so if you're getting emails about anything related to the Arts and Culture Commission, don't reply all. So if Lisa sent something to all of us, you can reply to her, but don't reply to it.
You can reply individually to some person.
To-
Or can you only reply individually to the person who sent it?
To one other person on the commission.
So you're not doing like a chain.
So, can't do that. Yeah, it's exciting.
As far as I brought up, the idea about council approval for projects, it's, the advice there was, if you're concerned, just ask early. There are some things where decision-making could just be delegated beforehand, where they say, okay, arts and culture, you're responsible for this, where you make the decision. Fine. The city, they're talking about adding a community development coordinator. So Soren's 4 topics were the open meeting law, do not engage a quorum to make decisions, period. Do not gain a consensus. Avoid report. Conflict of interest, can't use your position for financial gain. Declare conflict as soon as you know. You should not participate or vote. And Data Practice Act, this is kind of a sticking point for some people, but emails, this is just a good rule of thumb for anything that you put in writing, regardless of whether it's related to the Arts and Culture Commission or not. But as Soren said, it should be okay to appear in the top fold of the newspaper. So city emails may be made available. So something could come up where people could request all arts and culture related emails.
Because they have to do them public privacy data.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
So if you have questions about anything, you can make a formal request, and they have to,
Yep.
by law,
Yeah.
respond with all the content.
Yeah, so it can happen, not super worried about it, but just be careful. General advice, we are advisory to the city council, except for the planning commission and the EDA. The other commissions advisory to the council. We all don't need to operate the same, so differences are okay and good, so we don't have to behave the same way the other commissions do. And the role of the liaisons is really to listen and take info back to the council. They don't vote. Spending, anything over 25,000 has to go to the council. Anything under 10,000 is okay by staff as long as the money is in the budget. And then anything between 10 and 25 goes to the city manager. But best for city staff to purchase all resources, et cetera. So if we need something for the art cart, don't buy it and submit a receipt. It's easier to just have staff do that. But hopefully we do anything new on getting this community development work?
He just announced it, but yeah, we approved it.
Oh, good.
That should be
Yes.
really helpful. Sure. And then one last thing, actually, I found the backdrop for the chambers photo, and I sent it to you now. Sorry, I
Thank
didn't.
you.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
Oh, what happened to my training?
An idea for the background.
This was the original one that was proposed, but obviously it doesn't do that. But
Oh, red?
it's aluminum,
Oh.
1/2 inch thick aluminum with metal applied to.
Nice. Very nice. Okay. Well, the design is taken care of. Now it's just a matter of finding the vendor.
And entertain the motion to adjourn.
So
Today's very late.
It's good up straight. I wanted to do it opposite.
Wait, I didn't get that.
It was Stacy first. I seconded.
But thank you. That meeting still went over 2 hours. This time.
And I did take notes on the computer, so your meeting minutes are going to be much more brief. I have been authorized to do that, so.
Good for you. And I have far fewer action items this.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Is this coming together?
Y'all get some work.
Starting to
You think?
do a routine.
Oh, yes, yeah. Especially for a new commission. Yeah, just to sit down.